more than likely, we are planning to get that Apple card for Apple TV in April. So we're going to plan it for April. Good, it gives me some time to plan. $25 is big for the budget right now, but it's going to be absolutely necessary. It's Martin Scorsese. I consider him one of our teachers, even though he's more NYU. I'm new school. Regardless, he's been to the new school. You know, I didn't know this. Woody Allen taught at the new school. But regardless, he does have an influence on the new school and also all film known to mankind. So we are going to go out and get the Apple card, which is the Apple TV card. This is the first time of me having Apple TV. My sister had it a long time ago. I went into her place. I think it was like maybe 2014 or something. It was almost 10 years ago. About 9 years ago, and I think she had it. It might have been 2015, but she had one of the first generation ones. And I was like, "What is this device?" You know, and she's like, "Oh, it's called Apple TV." And I said, "Well, you know, what does it do? You know, I was like, how does it access, you know, all this stuff?" I didn't understand the whole process of Wi-Fi television. I understood Netflix, and I guess that's the same. It's a streaming device, but you didn't have to go out and buy a Netflix device to hook up. And the reason they do that is security. I guess, you know, their shows need security so that, you know, if you watch an Apple TV show, you have to buy a certain device to hook up to, you know, HDMI of your television, or you can just watch it on your phone. You know, I asked her, I was like, "Can you use the phone?" She said, "Yeah, you can use the phone. But if you want to watch it on a big screen, you got to buy this little device, this little thing that hooks in, you know." So we're gonna probably get both devices. So I'm gonna look on Market, which is basically Facebook Market, and see what is being offered. I saw one as cheap as $20, and that just is like an early generation one, in which you can get an early generation one. It should work. And then the card is only $25 to get started. But that's just so that I can see one movie, which is Killers of the Flower Moon. And then, you know, I'll go and watch Slow Horses as well, the Gary Oldman thing. That'll be exciting because I haven't had Netflix in almost a year. I dropped Netflix a long time ago. So it's a slow transition. The only consistent streaming device, or the only consistent streaming platform, would be YouTube, and that goes probably for everybody. You can get movies off YouTube. It's not free, you still have to pay the internet, you know, but there is now YouTube TV, but I'm not necessarily comparing it to Apple TV, because I know Apple TV is probably going to have some great stuff. The only thing I've been impressed with over the last few years was I thought Hulu was kind of cool, and then I only had Hulu for
approaching a railroad crossing.
I had Hulu for just a little while, and then I dropped Hulu, and I eventually dropped Netflix. So I haven't been paying for any type of internet streaming device for more than a year, and have been perfectly entertained just by using YouTube. I guess it's standard TV now almost, you know. You can still access your internet. I mean, you can still access your antenna. And just get a leaf antenna and hook it up to the TV, and if you want to watch television, although that's kind of dreadful, but people do it. You know, they get the news. There's programs they still offer. It's the old world, you know. Rarely do I ever hook up the antenna's there, but rarely do I ever poke around on it, maybe to look for the weather. So I just wanted to make that announcement that we'll probably be getting a lot of Apple News television, or at least Apple TV information, coming in maybe late April on the channel. I will be talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. I do plan to see that. It sounds like a very kind of politically driven drama. It looks like it's going to be a big deal. Could be a Gone with the Wind kind of thing, you know, a big deal, like breaking some rules and regulations and, you know, filmmaking, I guess you can call it that, you know, styles or whatever. We'll have to see, because The Irishman, I consider that one that broke some style rules and things that I thought was impressive. I was very impressed by The Irishman. is a groundbreaking film that was underrated, didn't get a lot of acclaim, but it was groundbreaking to me. I thought it was amazing. So we'll have to see, and then I'll be making comments about that for probably weeks on end, just talking about performances and script writing and all kinds of stuff. Then I'll be probably digging into Slow Horses, seeing the worth. Now, I know the opening, when they allow you to watch for free, was pretty amazing. I was pretty blown away as a crime, spy thriller. As a spy thriller, and I'm a big spy thriller person. I like James Bond and all that kind of stuff. And Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and all that wonderful stuff, which is not necessarily James Bond, but this is high spy thriller kind of stuff. So I'll probably be making comments about that and comparing it to modern day stuff and seeing how they deep. Now, I was thinking about the other day, and I think that the difference between Slow Horses and something like James Bond, or something that's just the regular spy thriller, like Mission Impossible or whatever, is that I think that Gary Oldman requires a bit of literature to be brought into the whole aspect of Slow Horses. Meaning, if you watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, you're not watching your average spy thriller genre. You're watching something that's probably literature, something that has a literary merit, is what I mean to say. So there's probably going to be literary merit and comparison to great writers, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to see. And where they're coming from. Every writer has a purpose. They have an objective, regardless if it's David Lynch or if it's the writer of Slow Horses or what it may be. They have an objective on what they want to say. It's not just nihilism, It's not just by chance. A writer will pick up the pen and he'll begin to write, not necessarily by chance. Even though I was talking about W.B. Waits on my Facebook. Sorry, W.B. Yeats. Sorry. Wrong pronunciation. I think we all make mistakes for a reason, but W.B. Yeats. And I think he believed something else was writing the story other than he. It was some kind of spirit. The spiritus mundi is what he called it. It was something that took over the hand and began to write on the page without thought. And it was this spirit trying to become alive again, to talk. So that's what W.B. Yeats talked about. He was kind of a spiritualist, No one's really explored that to a whole big depth thing in cinema. His writing of The Second Coming. It's a brilliant poem, a brilliant poem, starting with the turning of the gyra of the falcon making a pattern in the air. You're already talking about poetry, and you're already giving an image, almost like a movie image, almost like a screenplay, an image that he's putting into the mind of the reader to create this world of the Second Coming so that he could talk about it. And he claims that was not planned. He did not plan that poem. And that's the possibility of its greatness. With W.B. Yeats and The Second Coming, he's able to do two things with that poem. He's able to have philosophy and then balance it with imagery, using all the senses, especially the motion of the falcon and the falconer and the joining of those two. It's almost like a play. And he's able to balance the two. So he can get philosophical and get, philosophy, all Shakespeare, philosophy, whatever, talking about mankind and the reason for the Second Coming. But then he uses imagery. So it's not heavy set on, it doesn't topple to one side. It's a balanced poem of using both. I was talking to a poet last night on Facebook, just because I've run across some of her poetry. And I guess I made a comment about that. That you have to have both. You have to have the description. You have to have the dialogue. You don't have to. But to really capture them, you have to set, like, the paint down on the canvas and then start messing with the senses and use all that in the imagery. Or then you're just basically just philosophizing. The world is bad. Bad world. Why are you so bad and mean? You know? Great poem. I loved it. Very good. Bad world. Loved it. Yes, great. You know, it's not that easy. I wish it was, but the poet, and I remember me going off to New York, and I'd turn in these slips to poetry.com, which totally crashed, lost all those poems. And I'd write it, you know, on something. I'd find something, and then I guess I would maybe try to type it, and then I would send it out through the mail, and then it would return to me as a published piece, and all I had to do was give them $30, and they'd have the book of poetry. I wish I would have gave them that $30. I'd have my book of poetry, you know. Then one day, I returned to the website at poetry.com, completely crashed. All of it gone. No poem for you. The poetry Nazi says, no poem for you. It became Lola poetry, or Lulu poetry, and you can find some of your poems on Lulu. And then Lulu crashed. Don't ever store your poetry digitally only, unless you want it to just kind of go away into the wind, which there's something nice about that too. You write a poem and then you burn it and throw it out into the wind. Think if W.B. Yeats said that with The Second Coming, we'd never have read it. But I bet some poets, amazing poets, have probably done that, sadly enough. All the way, I'm thinking Arizona on that one. Ultimately, what we're talking about when it comes to writing or vlogging, movie making, is going to be storage. Now, cinema, from probably, I'd say maybe 1970s, maybe even 1960s, to now, has probably been well stored to a certain extent. As in, we know this movie was made by this person, we know the length of the movie, we know where to keep it. We know if we keep it in this cool dry place or this cool, I don't know how they preserve film, 35 millimeter. Eventually we can transfer it digitally, and then we can put it on a DVD, or we can store it somehow. So going all the way back from the 1960s, maybe even until now, we're probably getting that all done. The 50s are probably harder. There was a lot of movies, a lot of sci-fi movies that were made in the 50s that have probably been lost because they would just churn out these movies on 35 millimeter. They would churn them out as quick as they could. So these kids would go run to the movie house and watch this cheap movie, and they make a little bit of money off of it. The 40s, even more so, were probably lost. And then going into the 30s, they were probably lost quicker. And then in the 20s, many vanished quickly. So many movie stars of the 20s and 30s, it's very even hard to find them. Although they probably have been written about that have been stored in microfiche, because articles can be stored quickly. So if your name has been mentioned in a paper, it goes onto a microfiche and it's stored. Or it now probably goes somewhere digitally, and your name can be searched out through what we call Google. So now in the future, from this point on, and even probably from mid-2000, maybe after the turn of the century, we quickly do that and know where we were going to be able to store it, because we're in a storage age. That's why it's an informational age, because we're able to store and then locate in a very quick way. When it comes to movies, it comes to a vlog, when it comes to anything that's giving out information. Even art gives out information. There's been argument that art has no content. Well, regardless, there's going to be some type of information there, and it'll be stored, regardless if you think it's content or if you think it's just art. Because every painting, everything, every play, every movie, every vlog has what's known as information for a certain reason. So if we lose interest and then we decide not to store, then we reverse in technology. So nowadays, what we're trying to do is develop a way of storage. And my theories are it's probably going to be in some type of liquid thing. It's going to go into some kind of liquid device, and they're going to be like these tiny microscopic like microchips or something floating around in some kind of thing. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we have to do it because we've hit a wall, a blockage in storage in this wall, where we have to vet new technology so that we can go even further and not only store things, but do it quicker and without any meltdowns or glitches. So Facebook has contributed in a big way, millions and millions of dollars. And I believe that the guys that sued Zuckerberg have contributed in inventing new ways of storing data. The twins, as they call them. They're all kind of from Harvard. Anyway, that's our next big adventure in technology, since we're now in information. I think information is probably going to be, I think, the most powerful and the most, well, it's definitely going to be it's a powerful technological advance, but it's also going to be our only way, and I guess maybe achieving utopia or some type of peace. Because let's say if a rumor is spread, but because information and the availability of understanding a rumor and then searching it out, because we're able to access information to get the exact truth on something, because inherently man is good. Inherently we are peaceful creatures. We really are. We've been peaceful for many years. We've been at peace for many years. But once we solve the problems of the rumor and the gossip through technology, we can start kind of leading into utopia, where we know that this person's going to do what they love and that person over there is going to do what they love. So I'm at peace and I can move on. You know, this can all be done through information. So the storage of information over the next 10 years or 20 years is going to be highly important to the scientist, to the IT person, to the software creator, to the astronaut, to the artist. It's going to, in every field, it's going to be absolutely essential. It's going to be interesting to see what this is going to become, and it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what the next thing will be. You know, this is not a very big device, but yet it's revolutionary. It's about maybe the size of, I don't know, this thing right here, which is like a checkbook or something, or a notepad, or a postcard. You know, even a postcard. It's the size of really, it's, you know, it's amazing. I was thinking that the other day. I was like, I don't think we, as mankind, I do not think we understand about how fast we have got here in technology, you know, and into the information age, and how fast it has all developed over, I'd say, the past 20 years. It's almost the speed of light. Yeah. And the next thing I want to see before not long is watch all these cars drive themselves. That's gonna be weird. I'm here in the parking lot at Whole Foods. I'm realizing that I probably have to snack on something to activate the device. It's some kind of connection with my hunger. Ooh, got a daisy. Yeah. I don't know what. Why not just wish for an Oscar? You know, because if you make it that far, then you have a lot of money and family and children and stuff. You might as well wish for that. If you're gonna wish for something, go for the highest goal, at least financially, and it's worth something too. It's made of gold, it's gold plated. get the real thing. Look at that, it's like 1950s cotton candy. From 43. Bob Daddy. I'm gonna get a photo of this. I don't know where it came from, really. Cotton candy kids or something? Cotton candy. Bob Daddy Wade, born in 1943. Airbrush acrylic printed canvas. This image is from Lockheed Martin recreation. Area archives. The image was cropped by Wade's sensibility and enlarged onto photosensitized fabric. Once stretched, Wade airbrushed layers of acrylic color over the image, bringing it new life. To learn more about the conscious place, please visit Waterside DFW. Actually, it's watersidefw.com. They've got lights on it and everything, so I guess they consider it like an art piece. Huh. Sticky.